You know the story, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's one of the most famous opening lines in all of literature. But what if I told you that story wasn't just dropped out of the sky? What if it was actually a powerful, deliberate response in a much older, much bigger debate about where everything came from? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover. This is the question, isn't it? It's the one that always comes up. Is Genesis supposed to be a literal, blow-by-blow historical account, or is it something else? And to even begin to answer that, we have to get on the same page about one really important word. And that word is myth. Now, I know what you're thinking. When we hear the word myth, we usually think lie, a fairy tale, something that's just not true. But in the ancient world, it was the complete opposite. A myth wasn't a falsehood, it was a story that carried the deepest truths a culture knew. It was how they answered the biggest questions of all. Who are we? How did we get here? And what is our purpose?
Yeah, think of it this way. Myths are kind of like a community's core family stories. The ones that get passed down and explain this is who we are, this is what we believe, this is where we come from. They're symbolic, sure, but they are packed with meaning and identity.
So you see, a myth is doing some serious heavy lifting for a culture. It's not just explaining that things began, it's explaining why they matter. It was a framework for understanding reality itself. So, with that in mind, let's jump in our time machine and travel way, way back to a world that existed long before the book of Genesis was ever written down. We are heading to Mesopotamia, what we'd call modern-day Iraq. This place was literally the cradle of civilization. We're talking about massive empires, the first legal codes, incredible cities, and they had their own creation stories, powerful ones, and they were much, much older. Okay, just look at these dates for a second. This is what's so wild. You've got these major Mesopotamian stories, the Atrahasis epic, the Enuma Elish, that were being told and written down for hundreds, in some cases more than 1,000 years before the Genesis account we know was finally compiled. So what were people hearing in these stories? Well, to put it mildly, they were not exactly feel-good tales. The worldview you find in these Mesopotamian myths is often filled with chaos, violence, and conflict. Creation wasn't a peaceful event. It was the bloody result of bitter rivalries between the gods. Let's take the big one, the Babylonian epic called the Enuma Elish. How does the world get made? Well, first, there's a massive war between the gods. The hero god, Marduk, ends up killing the great mother goddess, Tiamat. And then, he builds the entire cosmos out of her dead body. He slices her in half to make the sky and the earth. And humanity? We're an afterthought, created from the blood of another god just to be slaves, to do all the hard work so the gods can kick back and relax. And if you go back even further, you find the Atrahasis epic. And get this, it all starts with a divine labor strike. The junior gods are sick and tired of digging canals, so humans are created to be their replacements. But then, we get too good at our jobs, we multiply, and we become too noisy. Our racket keeps the head god awake at night, so he tries to wipe us out, with plagues, famines, and finally, a giant flood. It's a pretty bleak picture, right? Okay, so that's the world. That's the cultural soup of stories about warring gods, cosmic corpses, and humanity being created as divine slaves. And into that world drops the Genesis creation story. And when you see it in that context, you realize it's not just another myth. It's a radical, defiant, and absolutely revolutionary statement. This, right here, this is the whole ballgame. Just look at the contrast. On one side, you have a whole pantheon of bickering, fighting gods. In Genesis, you have one single, all-powerful God. On one side, creation is born from violence, conflict, and death. In Genesis, it's created peacefully, just by speaking. And maybe the biggest difference of all, instead of humans being made as slaves, Genesis declares that we are made in the very image of God, to be partners and caretakers of his world. I absolutely love this quote from one of our sources. God creates with sprezzatura. It's an amazing Italian word that means basically a kind of effortless mastery. It's doing something incredibly difficult, but making it look graceful and easy. There's no battle, no struggle, no sweat. Just a calm, powerful voice, let there be light. And it happens. And here's another huge, and I mean huge, theological leap. In a lot of those other myths, the world is made out of the gods' bodies. It's an extension of them. But in Genesis, God is totally separate from his creation. He's the artist, not the canvas. The universe isn't a piece of a dead god, it's the beautiful, intentional handiwork of a living one. So, okay, Fun history lesson, right? But what's the point? Why does any of this ancient stuff matter today? Well, because when you understand the world that Genesis was speaking to, you start to see the incredible, jaw-dropping claims it was really making, not just about how the world began, but why. First, and this was a mind-blowing idea at the time, creation is fundamentally good. It's not some cosmic accident or the unfortunate byproduct of a divine war. It's a deliberate act by a good creator who steps back, looks at everything he's made, and declares it very good. That means the physical world, this planet, our bodies, it all has dignity and value. Takeaway number 2, creation is a free gift. The God of Genesis wasn't forced to do this. He wasn't lonely or bored or fixing some cosmic problem. He created out of sheer, unadulterated generosity, just to share his own goodness and being. There's no divine need being met here, only divine goodness being given away freely. Third, unlike those chaotic stories born from a divine slugfest, Genesis presents a creation that has incredible order and purpose. It's not random. It's shaped by divine wisdom. You see it in the structured progression of the 7 days. Everything is being built and prepared for a relationship with humanity, the peak of that creative act. And this last one, this is maybe the wildest of them all. It's the idea of creation ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. See, the Mesopotamian gods needed raw materials. They needed a divine body to work with. But the God of Genesis needs nothing. He creates everything that exists from nothing at all, demonstrating a kind of power and sovereignty that was totally unheard of. So, when we pull it all together, we can see that when we get bogged down in arguments about whether Genesis 1 is a science textbook, we're asking the wrong questions. We're kind of missing the whole point. It's a poetic and powerful theological manifesto written to paint a bold new picture of who God is and what this amazing world is all about. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Does knowing that Genesis was a direct counter-argument to these older, violent myths, does that take away from its power? Or does it reveal a story that is even more radical, more beautiful, and more profound than you ever imagined?